Hey, are you tired of expensive, flimsy cabinets? I'm Vitaly from Good DIY Plans. Today I'm going to show you how to build a base cabinet that's perfect for your garage or kitchen. Now, normally cabinetry feels like an advanced project, but this blueprint is beginner friendly. It features a wide top drawer, cabinet doors with an optional false style, and I'm going to explain that later, an adjustable shelf, soft close hinges, and drawer slides for that smooth high-end feel. It is made from 3/4 inch plywood with solid wood frames. It's fully customizable and connects easily to the wall. So with some simple tools, clear steps, you'll be able to create a quality cabinet that fits your needs. Let's get started. So start by making the side panels of the cabinet. We're going to be using 3/4 inch thick plywood for that. And it needs to be a 34.5 inch by 23.5 inch panel. We're going to remove a small section of that panel that measures 3 inches by 3.5 inches. This is where the toe kick is going to go. And we're going to need a total of 2 of these panels. Now we're going to make some modifications to these panels before they're ready to integrate with the rest of the components. First modification we're going to make is we're going to cut a groove into the side panels. So we're going to cut a 23/32 inch wide groove using a 23/32 inch straight router bit. And we're going to go to a depth of 1/4 inch. This will be for the dado joint. Now to illustrate here, so we're going to start the groove 4 1/4 inch away from the edge here. And then it'll be a width of 23/32 inch. The second modification we're going to make is we're going to cut another groove in the back of the side panels. This is where the back panel is going to be housed, or where it's going to sit. So we're going to use a 1/4 inch wide or 1/4 inch straight router bit to cut a 1/4 inch wide groove to a depth of 1/4 inch. So we are going to start 23/32 of an inch away from the edge here, and then a 1/4 inch deep, 1/4 inch wide. And the third modification we're going to make to these side panels would be just to add some shelf pin holes. You can use a lot of different jigs, but go ahead and add about 6 holes using a jig so it's nice and straight and wobble free. The first hole that should be added should be about 14 inches away from the top of the cabinet. Next, go ahead and add the cabinet floor panel. So this is also made from 3/4 inch thick plywood. It is 31 inches by 23.5 inches. We're going to modify this one slightly as well. So we're going to use a 1/4 inch straight router bit to cut a 1/4 inch deep groove for the back panel. So just like before, it's 23/32 inch from the edge, and then it's going to be a 1/4 inch wide by 1/4 inch deep. And next we're going to integrate some stretchers into this cabinet. So we have 6 identical stretchers. They're all made out of 3/4 inch thick plywood, and they are 30.5 inches long and 4 1/4 inches wide. So add some pocket holes to each one of these so that they're ready to go, ready to integrate. And let's begin assembly. So first take one of the side panels and then the cabinet floor panel, and then use some glue and go ahead and integrate these two together. If the floor panel doesn't want to go in, you could use some sandpaper and just lightly sand the edges so that it doesn't catch the plywood layers and peel them off. That way it comes in easier. Go ahead and do the same thing for the second panel as well, and temporarily use clamps to hold everything in place. And then once we integrate the stretchers, we can remove the clamps. So the first set of stretchers we're going to be integrating are going to be here. So let's orient ourselves. This is the toe kick, so that's the bottom of the cabinet. And then this here is the top of the cabinet. So we're going to add one at the bottom and then one at the top, the back of the cabinet. So first stretcher is going to be flush against the floor panel. The second stretcher is going to be flush against the top of the side panel. Got to make sure that the quarter-inch by quarter-inch groove you cut here is not obstructed by the stretcher. So use some wood glue and then use 1 1/4 inch long screws to be able to secure those to the main carcass of the cabinet. Now for the next set of stretchers, we're going to be using a little spacer here. So this is 1/4 inch plywood. Ideally, it would be the same piece of plywood that you would be using for the back panel of the cabinet. And here is what we're going to do with it. So first, let's orient ourselves here. So this is the toe kick now. So this is the top of the cabinet. So we'll use the 1/4 inch thick plywood spacer to position these stretchers correctly. So it's basically going to be a space holder for the back panel, and it's going to ensure that this stretcher doesn't encroach on the space that's required for the back panel. So just like before, we're going to secure these with some wood glue, and then we're going to use 1 1/4 inch long screws to be able to hold those in place. And then for the next set of stretchers, we're going to use a different spacer. So this one needs to be 5 3/4 inch wide. Doesn't matter how long it is, it could be 13 inches or longer. So we're going to be using this to position the next stretcher that is going to be part of the drawer housing. So use that spacer on this side, then move it over to the second side, and then attach the stretcher here with wood glue and then 1 1/4 inch long screws. And the last stretcher is going to go where the toe kick is. So we're going to go ahead and use wood glue and then 1 1/4 inch long screws, and then just integrate it into this last place. Now, if your toe kick area doesn't look super clean, that's okay. This is going to actually be covered by the toe kick trim piece that will cover at the very end. So now we're going to go ahead and add the cabinet back panel. So this is made from a 1/4 inch thick plywood, which is 31 inches by 29 3/4. And what we're going to do is we're going to slide it into that groove. So the groove that we cut in earlier. And once it's in place, we just need to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. So what you can do is you can just use some pin nails and just kind of nail the top here. Or if you'd like, you could use some screws to be able to hold it in place. Next, let's go ahead and add the shelf. There's a couple ways to do the shelf. You don't have to do it exactly like I have it here, but if you want to, we're using 3/4 inch thick plywood for the actual shelf, and then there's going to be a decorative shelf edge made from 1x2 lumber. So it's 30.5 inches long, and then the plywood is 30.5 inches long by 21 3/4 inches. So we're going to join these pieces together. We're going to use some wood glue. We're going to use some 1 1/4 inch long screws and go ahead and secure that together. And then go ahead and add it to the main cabinet carcass. So you've got those pinholes that you drilled earlier. So go ahead and add the pins and then put it at the desired height. Okay, now we're going to be adding the face frame of the cabinet. So for the face frame, there's two options. There's option A and then there's option B. So for option A, this is what that looks like. And the advantage of option A is you have a false stile that will swing open and closed with the door. So it's not actually attached to the face frame of the cabinet. The benefit of that is when you open the cabinet, you have a large kind of unobstructed view of the shelf. You can take the shelf out easily. You can adjust it easily. You can put in a larger or longer items and take them out easier. The downside of that is you have to open and close the cabinet doors in a specific sequence. Now, option B here is a little bit different. So the Stile is already going to be incorporated into the face frame of the cabinet. The benefit is you don't have to worry about which door you open and close first. So the guide that we're going through here is going to detail how to build the option A, which is with the false Stile. So we're going to make the face frame components out of 1x2 lumber. So you're gonna have two 31-inch pieces and then three 28 and 15/16 inches. So you're going to join these together by using pocket holes, wood glue, and then 1 1/4 inch long screws. Then go ahead and sand it, prep it for integration with the rest of the cabinet. Now, if you are going to be going with that more traditional style, you're going to essentially do everything exactly the same, but you're going to now integrate a 1x3 lumber piece that's going to be in the pink color here, so 21.5 inches long, and go ahead and integrate that into the frame. It's going to be directly in the center here, so again, use pocket screws, pocket holes, pocket screws, and wood glue, and then just sand it down, get it ready for integration. So to add the cabinet face frame to the actual cabinet, there's a couple options here. If you're going to be painting the cabinet, which I imagine that most of you will be, you can just go ahead and use small pin nails and just secure it directly to the cabinet carcass with some wood glue, and then fill in those holes later, and you won't be able to see them. The other option is, let's say you're going to be staining that cabinet. You could use just some tape and then tape it into place up until it dries, and then remove that, and then you should be good. All right, so let's move on to building the actual drawer here. So the drawer is made out of 4 components, and then we're also gonna have the drawer bottom as well. So we are using 3/4 inch plywood. The 2 sides of the drawer are 21 inches long, and then the back and the front of the drawer are going to be 26 and 9/16 inches long. So these are 4 1/4 and 4 1/4, and this one in the teal color is 3.5 inches wide. So for these moss green kind of components, we're going to be cutting a groove into each one of them. That groove is going to need to be 1/4 inch deep by 1/4 inch wide. That's where we're going to insert the drawer bottom panel. So to illustrate here, let's see, so this right here is 1/2 inch away from the bottom, and then it's going to be 1/4 inch deep by 1/4 inch wide. So do that for all 3 of those components. Then secure the components together by adding some pocket holes. So you're going to add it to that teal component, and then you're also going to add it to this front component as well. And then use wood glue and use 1 1/4 inch long screws to secure them all together. Now go ahead and add the drawer box bottom. So it is going to be made out of 1/4 inch thick plywood, 20.5 inches by 27 and 1/16 inch. So this is going to be inserted directly into that groove that you made earlier. So go ahead and add it and then secure it in place. You could use either some glue, some screws, or just add a couple of those pin nails to make sure that it doesn't move around. Okay, now we're going to be integrating the drawer slides. So we're going to be using some 1x3 lumber for the drawer slides. These are going to be the spacers that are going to add that sufficient space for the drawer slides to be able to open and close. You'll see in just a second. So these are 22.5 inches long. So we're going to be integrating them into this section, which is that drawer housing. And we're going to use wood glue and pin nails. Now the reason why we're adding these is because the drawer slide needs to be flush with the cabinet face frame right here, so it can come in and out easily. Now go ahead and integrate the drawer slides into your cabinet carcass. And here we're using 1/2 inch thick drawer slides. So go ahead and install them as the manufacturer recommends. If you are using the ones that I have in the link, they are soft close and they're probably the best price for the value that you get that I've seen. And I've used it for more than just this project. I've also used it in my office desk as well. They're excellent. So go ahead and add the drawer box to this setup now. You can use that same spacer you used before, the 1/4 inch thick spacer. And the reason why we're going to make sure that the drawer box is slightly elevated above the face frame is because we don't want it catching when it opens and closes. So go ahead and use that spacer and then begin to add the drawer slides to the drawer box. And then follow the manufacturer's instructions and then go ahead and add the other screws. Now we're going to make the cabinet doors. So the cabinet doors are made out of 2 components. We have the rails and the stiles. So we're going to use 1x2 lumber for the rails and 1x3 lumber for the stiles. The rails are 10¼ inch and the stiles are 23¼ inch. And here we're going to be using a tongue and groove router bit set. So this router bit set is going to allow us to integrate all 4 of these pieces so that they can make the cabinet door. So just to clarify here, the router bit is going to cut a groove that is 1/4 inch wide and 1/4 inch deep. And then the other part of that bit set is going to cut the tongue, and the tongue is going to fit with it. So it's 1/4 inch this way and 1/4 inch this way. So we're going to cut those grooves and the tongues into the brown components here. And then we're going to add the center door panel. So this is made out of 1/4 inch thick plywood, and it's 25/8 of an inch by 10¼ inch. Go ahead and integrate it together. Use some wood glue so that that panel doesn't rattle around in there and it sits nice and snug. Use some clamps, or if you'd like, you can use some tape and just kind of have it all together while it dries. Make a total of 2 of these doors, and you can see here how the tongue and groove integrate together nicely. So we're going to also make the drawer face as well. So very similar concept. We have 1x2 lumber for the drawer rails and then 1x3 lumber for the drawer stiles. These are 6 inches and these are 25 inches long. And then do the same exact thing. Use the tongue and groove method here. So the purple components here are just going to have the groove, and then the yellow components are going to have the tongue as well, just so that everything matches nicely. And then go ahead and add the center drawer panel. So this is also made from 1/4 inch thick plywood, and it's 25½ inches by 3½ inches. Just like before, use some wood glue, integrate them together, and then use some clamps or some glue to hold everything together. All right, now for adding the soft close hinges, so we're using the Euro hinges for this, and there are a ton of videos on how to actually install these. So the cabinet doors, the face frame of the cabinet, these are standard for cabinetry. So there's a lot of videos. I'll also add a video that is like my favorite, or I guess the most helpful for me, for being able to understand this concept. That way you can learn as well. This video is not going to cover that, but go ahead and add the soft close hinges here. You can use the Craig jig for drilling the holes for that. It's extremely useful, makes it super easy. I'll have that in the link as well, especially if you're making several of these cabinets, definitely worth it. So now go ahead and add the doors to the actual cabinet carcass. So as you can see here, when we kind of lay the cabinet doors on top of the cabinet, there is a gap in between here. So this is where the center stile is going to be, that's going to conceal that, so we won't see it. Now for the placement of these, let's do a quick measurement here. So from the side it's 1 inch, and then here, let's see, this is 1/4 of an inch. So we have 1 inch this way, and from the bottom 1/4 of an inch. And then in between here, this is 1/2 inch, or about 1/2 inch between the doors themselves. So once you've got that in place, you can go ahead and add the cabinet doors to the actual cabinet face, and follow the manufacturer's instructions on how to do that. And go ahead and add the center stile. So this is the false stile if you're going with option A after that. So if you're going with option A, instead of adding that 21.5 inch 1x3 piece earlier on, you're going to add it now. So you could, if you'd like, use a little spacer. This is optional. So it's about 3¼ inches long, any size lumber. And what you're going to do is you're going to place that false stile in the center here, and then use that spacer to ensure it's the proper space. The reason why it's nice because the spacer goes underneath the door as well. So anyways, go ahead and add that. Once it's in the correct location, close one of the doors, use a pencil to mark the location, and then open it up with the door and use wood glue and some pin nails to secure it to the actual door. I've also seen people use screws for this as well. You won't see it when the door is closed, so it's up to you what you would like to use there. All right, now let's go ahead and add the drawer face. So since we have about 1/2 inch between the doors, we're gonna kind of maintain that and have 1/2 inch between the tops of the door and then the bottom of the drawer face. So go ahead and add the drawer face to the drawer box. And now, how do they integrate together? So if you've got multiple cabinets, remember I mentioned the toe kick trim earlier on, it's gonna conceal things. So it does, it's gonna go directly on top here. So if I removed it for a second, you can see that all of that would be visible. And it looks much nicer with the trim concealing it. So when you do connect your cabinets together, you need to use some cabinet screws, and I'll have those linked below. So you're going to connect them at the top, and then you're also going to connect them at the bottom, and then you're going to go ahead and add the toe kick trim on top of that. So the final dimensions of the cabinet would be 34.5 inches tall, 25 and 1/8 inches wide, and then 31 and 16 inches long. I do have a couple other design options that I might explore making a video for. For example, this other kind of option, which is very similar to the one that we built. The only thing is we're adding more drawers and then kind of like a larger drawer at the bottom. So let me know in the comments if this is something that you're interested in and if you want me to make a video about that. Before we wrap it up, I've put together a detailed blueprint for this cabinet. It includes all the measurements, the diagrams, the cut lists you're going to need. You can print it out and have it by your side as you build, making the process a lot smoother. And if you're thinking about variations like different sizes, all drawers instead of doors, or have questions about wood types or where to get the material, feel free to ask in the comments. I'm curious to hear what you're planning, and your questions might inspire a future video. Thank you for watching, and happy building.